Artificial intelligence has existed since the 1950s and underpins all technology in modern society. From monitoring Amazon transactions to self-driving cars to Siri, almost every product we use runs on intelligent machines. But what exactly is artificial intelligence, and do we need to understand human consciousness to create it? Before I explore this question further, let's set out some definitions. Consciousness, a system of qualia or subjective experience. Mind, a faculty that contains thought and consciousness. Artificial intelligence, machines that have the ability to use strategy, learn, and represent knowledge, using these skills to achieve a goal. I'll get to discussing all of these, but for now let's start with the definition of artificial intelligence. Scientists have come up with different criteria to define intelligence, the most famous of which is the Turing test, created by mathematician Alan Turing in 1950. The aim of the test is to see whether the hypothetical intelligence of a machine can be distinguished from that of a human. In it, a human has a text conversation with a machine designed to respond in a human-like way. This conversation is monitored by a human evaluator who sees the typed conversation but doesn't know which is the machine and which is the human. If the evaluator can't tell the difference, the machine passes the test, showing that it has human-level intelligence. American philosopher John Searle decided to explore this further in a thought experiment he called the Chinese room. Suppose a man is sitting in a room. He is given questions in Chinese and uses a rulebook to answer them. You could say that the man doesn't have true understanding of the language because he doesn't really understand the questions or the answers, even though he's able to answer them correctly. Imagine this again, but with a computer. If the machine answers the questions accurately enough to pass the Turing test with a Chinese speaker, does it actually understand Chinese, or is it just simulating the ability to understand Chinese? A machine that satisfies the first criterion is called strong AI, and the second is weak AI. Therefore, even though the Turing test is a benchmark for machine intelligence, it isn't proof that a machine has consciousness. Searle's definitions of AI have been criticized by futurist Ray Kurzweil, who argues that the statistical learning mechanisms used in some AI is also seen in the neocortex, which is the outermost layer of the brain and is responsible for higher-level brain functions. It is made of repeating clusters of neurons, like Lego blocks of knowledge. Combining these Lego blocks stacks the knowledge together in a hierarchy and allows us to understand more complex concepts. Modeling of the brain has been used in artificial neural networks, which are systems of algorithms working together to process inputs and perform tasks. In early neural networks, each input was randomly assigned to a simulated neuron, and had a random level of importance that contributed to a total input signal. If this signal was above a specific threshold, the neuron fired, and its output was used as an input for the next layer, similar to the connections between clusters in the neocortex. If the output was incorrect, the neural net reassigned its input strength, similar to the way the brain rearranges its connections between blocks during learning. So, we've seen how the physical biology of the brain is used to develop AI, but what about human consciousness? Searle believes that consciousness is caused by mechanisms that can't be replicated outside of the brain. But are we even sure on the definition of consciousness itself? As I mentioned before, consciousness can be defined as qualia, but what does that mean? If I were to describe the colour red to a blind person, how would I describe it? The colour of autumn leaves? Or fire? I'd struggle to describe it because the experience differs from person to person. Philosopher David Chalmers summarised this in his hard problem of consciousness, explaining how and why qualia exist. Strong AI could potentially be built if we were able to answer the hard question of consciousness, but this would involve trying to relate objective fact to subjective experience. Our technology isn't currently advanced enough to build strong AI, but understanding human consciousness will allow us to create intelligent systems that can surpass the biological limitations of the brain. I think Ray Kurzweil says it best. Our technology, our machines, are part of our humanity. We created them to extend ourselves, and that is what is unique about human beings.